Chapter 12. Coach Logic, the Big Yellow, Yoda, and Luke Skywalker. You can't win a race in the first mile, but you can lose it. Floyds and the Subjectivity of Argyle Socks. Tent Erection. Dude, said Bowden. He cries to everyone. So, I said angrily, he was lying? Oh no, said Bowden calmly as he prepared for the day's race by twisting a sharp new metal spike into the bottom of one of his Nikes. He wasn't lying. He meant every word he said. You can be sure of that. He tested the rest of the spikes for tightness with his spike wrench, then shoved his shoes back into the bag on his lap. As I watched him do this, I was silently alarmed. I had no spikes. I didn't know I was supposed to have spikes. It seemed extravagant to me to spend all the cash Dad had for my Excaliburs. Now I needed another pair of shoes. I decided maybe Bowden was an equipment freak, that he would be one of only a handful of guys at the race wearing spikes. I decided also not to ask him if I was going to look like a fool in my trainers, my theory being that a state of ignorance, however short-lived, was more pleasant than the outright certainty that I'd look like a foolish cross-country virgin at the starting line. Coach is one of the few people I've ever met who truly means everything he says, Bowden continued. It's just that what he says, when you take it all together, doesn't end up making a lot of sense. He rubbed the dark stubble on his unshaven chin thoughtfully. Actually, that's not quite right. It does make sense, but it's not logical. He looked at me to see if I got it. My face must have indicated I didn't. Look, he said, Coach is Coach. He's nuts, but he's totally honest. Everything he says, he means it and believes it, 100%. He considered that, then added as an afterthought, when he says it. We were on the Big Yellow, riding to the park where the Hokum Carum was set to happen. As we waited on the bus to arrive, on that misty morning, our bags full of gear sitting on the sidewalk, Coach had said that the varsity pairs should sit together. Slade, however, refused to ride with me, saying no pussy who trained at the ass end of the pack deserved to sit next to him. Bowden, always the mediator, said he'd trade Chad Yost for me. I was actually grateful that Slade refused to sit next to me. The 40-minute ride would have been excruciating had I actually been within strangling distance of him. The ride gave me the chance to talk to Bowden, who had clearly taken on the role of Yoda for all us young Luke Skywalkers who still didn't know which way was up. I'd told him of Coach's breakdown out in the hinterlands, expecting his sleepy eyes to grow wide at the image of Coach bawling in the seat next to me, his Subaru sitting halfway into the first rows of a cornfield. But instead of widening his eyes, Bowden had rolled them and told me Coach had broken down in tears in front of most of the seniors and juniors at some point. It's like the guy, he said, doesn't have any filter between what he says and what he feels. You know? It's like he's got to say exactly what he's thinking and act out exactly what he's feeling all the time. So I'm not the only one he's done that to? I asked. He broke down to me when I was a sophomore, said Bowden, chuckling at the memory. He told me he didn't deserve to live. The bus was warm that morning. Several of the guys had fallen asleep, pillows pressed up against the sliding windows of the bus. Others had headphones on. A few were eating breakfast out of greasy bags of fast food. The mood was sleepy. The drone of the bus tires on the interstate beneath us filled the bus. What did you do? I asked. What? You mean to make him say that to me and cry? Yeah, did you cheat on a workout or something? Like you did? Bowden asked. How did you know about that? I asked, my heart leaping in my chest. As far as I knew, neither Coach nor Squid had ever mentioned that day to anyone. Look, one thing you've got to understand is that this team is like a really messed up family. Everybody eventually knows everything. We just don't talk about it at team meetings down in the locker room. We talk about it like this, one-on-one, quietly. So, I said after a silent moment, did you cheat on a workout or something? Nope. I was just the last guy out of the locker room, the last guy left to listen. Someone coughed behind us and someone else told him to shut up. Well, any advice for the race, I asked, changing the subject. You're leading off, right? I think so. You are, said Bowden, a little frustrated that I didn't know if I was lead or anchor. And my advice is this: don't kill yourself on the first mile. You've got 3 miles to run. Remember that. Bowden took a drink from his bottle of Gatorade. It was going to be a hot day. Coach always says you can't win a race in the first mile, but you can lose it. Okay, I said. I shut up then, but there was something on my mind. Bowden sensed it. What else did you want to know? He asked. Are you in pain all the time? I think I may be injured. My legs hurt, like all the time. Both legs the same? Yeah. Bowden smiled. That's just you turning into a runner. Your muscles are shredded. That's how you get stronger, though. When your body repairs itself, it makes you better than you were before. You have to hurt yourself to get stronger, I said, testing the idea out. That's life, little bluebird. That's running. Bowden shut his eyes and seemed after a while to fall asleep. I tried to do the same with no luck. I kept thinking about Coach and how to feel about him. Then the bus slowed, the engine roaring at the driver's downshift. The guys began moving in their seats. We exited off the interstate onto the narrow country road leading to the park. Then a line of trees ended, and the course was right there, outside my bus window. My heart thumped hard in my chest at the realization that I was a step closer to the time to prove myself. We clambered off the bus to find a field full of activity. There's a festive atmosphere at any large gathering of people, even a bunch of sadists like distance runners. Maybe even especially among a group of sadists like distance runners. As St. Augustine supposedly said, only saints and madmen are not, by nature, gregarious. All he meant was that being around a lot of other people is a good thing for most of us. Neither saint nor madman, I felt the communal buzz of the place, and it excited me. It was a thrill to be there, yet the nervous ninny in me wished to be home in bed under the childish protection of my sheets and blankets. 50 or more tents in a variety of colors sat on the grass under the blue morning sky. The heat of the day was becoming apparent, yet the morning insects were still at their orchestrations. For some reason, the whole spread made me think of the Civil War. Heat, tents, bugs in a field. Packs of runners, guys and girls both, shuffled along the course marked with white paint on the green grass. Strings of multicolored plastic pennants indicated tight corners, as well as the finish chute. The chute narrowed from an opening of about 10 feet to a single man-woman wide exit, where runners would line up in finishing order. Leaning on each other, staggering for breath, relieved to be done, finally, with the task they'd set for themselves. As soon as I saw that finishing chute, I wished I could leapfrog in time to the moment I would exit it, tired and done, whatever the result. But then I realized it was Slade as our team anchor who'd be in the chute, not me. Who are those guys? I asked Bowden as we stood outside the bus. I pointed at a group of 10 or so lean and lanky runners, many of whom had spotty beards and all of whom wore green and gold-striped running shorts and mid-calf-high Argyle socks, funky dress socks, in the strangest color combinations imaginable. That's Floyds, said Bowden. I know, they look like idiots, but they got 4th at state last year, so that they can do whatever the hell they want. It's actually kind of cool, I said. Bowden stared at me for a moment. You're a little weird. Did you know that? I've been considering it a lot lately, I said, my weirdness. Well, as long as you kick ass out there, he pointed at the course. Nobody's going to give a shit if you're weird or not. He nodded at the Floyds team, who were running away from us now. Like those guys. They suck. Everybody thinks they're complete tools. They get on the podium in November. Everybody wishes they could wear Argyle socks like them, but they can't, because Floyds did it first. It's that simple. Bluebirds, shouted Coach as he threw his bag down on the dew-covered grass. Your first job is to put up the tent. This first time, Swart's going to direct you. Next time, you do it on your own. Listen up and learn. I'm going to go take a stinker. Squid raised his hand like a goofy third grader. I don't know why, but he looked really funny with his hand stuck up in the air while standing in an open field. When Coach ignored him, he began jumping up and down until Coach couldn't ignore him anymore. What, Sidney? Groaned Coach. Do I? Coach cut him off, anticipating his question. No, you're fruit salad. Fruit salad is excused from tent erection. I thought Popeye and Leonardo, who'd become something of a tandem, were going to fall on the ground laughing when he said tent erection. I laughed too, but not very hard. I was preoccupied with my task for the day, not screwing up.